In this episode of Tea Talks, we're going to be sharing how we're able to consistently grow home, garden and lifestyle brands.
Let's tea talk about that.
Darren, we're back in the Tea Talk studio.
Yes,
how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
This is the first episode with your Meta glasses.
Yeah.
He's loving his Meta.
I had to put them on Do Not Disturb.
Are they Meta Ray-Bans? They are,
They are Meta Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, we can probably show a little clip of the before we started recording, because we've been technically recording for a little bit now, as we were prepping.
Yeah.
And as I was just direly struggling to find where the Do Not Disturb mode is on my phone.
Otherwise, your glasses are going to start
tells me
talking
every message
to you.
that comes through, and I thought that's not going to work.
So this is where you just need normal pair of glasses.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's not
They're
good enough,
I mean,
not good enough for me.
I just wear these. Those talk to you.
Yeah,
they play
do.
music.
They take pictures. Here we go.
They're very cool.
Taking a picture of all of you at home.
There you go. We have to put a bit of that in.
Sounds quite creepy, actually.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
a little
You
bit.
don't have to hide your cameras.
A little bit. Right. We have got a really interesting episode to talk about today.
We do.
It's a really just topic because we're going to talk. One of the ways we were talking before, and actually this was stemmed off the back, as is often the case, meetings that we have internally. We think, oh, that will make a good tea talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's very reflective of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And there's a little phrase that we talk about regularly, which is common sense commercials.
Yes.
And we were talking about that, and actually, I thought that's really interesting because we talk about it all the time, and it's mentioned, a lot within these four walls.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of the ways that we're able to consistently grow brands. The brands we work with, we get, great results consistently. And I think, yes, we're doing great creative. Yes, we're running the ads. But a big part of what we do and our approach and our sort of philosophy to how we work is we use a lot of common sense.
We do.
And we've coined this phrase, I coined this a long time ago, was like common sense commercials, because I like to keep things simple. And now you hear it mentioned, Lou and Matt, we talk about it quite a lot. So I thought I'd share in this what I mean by common sense commercials. And you can chip in with any questions that our dear audience might be thinking in terms of, well, what does it mean? Because we all know that common sense is not that common.
No.
And people with that, when they're doing their ads, their Google ads, their Meta ads, they're wanting to grow, bring in more leads and sales, people love to overcomplicate things. And so whilst when you go into these ad accounts and you're wanting to grow your business and pull in more leads and opportunities, of course, there's many moving parts. Yeah. But we can really keep things simple, and we can use a big dollop of common sense. And actually, a lot of the time, that can keep you on the right path. Mm-hmm. And so I've got my phone, I've got my notes, but I've also got my phone with a few points because I keep my phone. You must do this, right? This is a little segue. Do you use the notes thing on your phone?
Oh yeah.
Like that is my Bible.
Yeah, constantly.
All of my sort of keynote phrases and all of my prompts and reminders, things I need to keep on mind.
I worry if anyone were to steal my phone, they'd have my whole life on there.
Literally. But I've got so many notes, and this is why they're on there, because it's called Common Sense Commercials, and it's all of the key things that we're always mindful of when we're working on, accounts and this and the other, and particularly when I'm doing content. Now,
before you get into that,
go on.
We're talking about consistency today.
Oh.
And so I thought, what better time to launch a whole new segment and be completely inconsistent to our show format. So we're starting a new segment on Tea Talks.
Yes, we are.
Called Tea or Tosh.
Tea or Tosh.
That's right, it's time to separate the real from the rough. Each episode we tackle a bold marketing claim and figure out what's real and what's just plain wrong. And the best part, you get to play along at home. So, is it tea or tosh?
So come on then, Darren, what is Tea or Tosh?
Tea or Tosh is a segment that we're introducing because we do like to add a bit of gamification to our shows.
We did it to the pod, and it's gone down really well.
It's done really well. We've got paid media mysteries in the podcast. If you haven't gone and seen those, you can. I mean, we post the mysteries, solely just the mystery section of the show on our socials every single week.
Which is multiple choice, isn't it?
It's multiple choice, which means that people at home, while they're watching or listening, can also play along. And I thought, we need to do that with Tea Talks. We need to bring in some gamification and give a little bit of interactivity to the people watching at home. So we've come up with this idea, Tea or Tosh, which was named by our Sam in the creative team.
Shout out to Sam. It's very good. We love it.
Which was great.
Yep.
And basically, in a similar but different way to Paid Media Mystery, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And it's going to be a true or false question. In other words, is it tea or is it tosh?
Oh, okay. Go on then. Have you got one ready?
Yes, I do.
Oh, lovely. Go on then.
We're talking about consistency.
Okay.
And we're talking about growing home, garden, and lifestyle brands.
Yeah.
So my question for you today is, is it tea or is it tosh? Brands that post content at least 3 times per week grow 2 times faster than those that don't?
Oh.
Is it T or is it Tosh?
Organic content.
Organic.
It's got to be T.
It is T. You are correct.
There
Multiple
you go.
studies show consistency in content output directly correlates with growth, especially for niche consumer brands.
There you go. Which is, most of our products, they are niche products. And it does. I mean, that's, most folks are going to go, yeah, we know to post. But there's so many of you watching that you don't post as regularly as you think. Because, think, oh, well, we're running ads, that'll do the job. And actually works so much better if you post organically and you make an effort, as we are seeing across our clients.
And if anyone wants to figure out how can they do that more, we have just posted an episode of Tea Talks.
Yes, we have.
That talks about exactly that.
We have.
So go and check that out. We'll put that in the description down below.
We'll get Archie to link to that below in terms of the thing. Yeah. Cool. Right, there you go. That's Tea or Tosh. Have we got a little outro for Tea or Tosh?
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to have a little outro.
It's probably playing right now.
There you go. Right, fine. Okay. Tea or Tosh. I like that. So Tea or Tosh now is going to be true. Is going to be true or false. Okay, fine. Okay.
True or false.
Very good. Very good. Right. Okay. Common sense commercials. I've got a whole bunch of bullets. I'm just going to run through quick fire. And just, these are the things that we running accounts, we've got accounts, clients spending 2 or 3, 4 grand a month on ads. We've got clients that are spending 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 grand a month on ads and everything in between.
Sure.
Right. So for us, we've got small campaigns, big campaigns, relatively straightforward campaigns and setups, then really, really complex with masses of SKUs and everything in between. Right. And the way we look at all of that is we say, right, let's boil this down. And what are some common sense things that we could just look at and kind of go, okay, yes, we'll look at the metrics and the numbers, but actually, does this make sense? Is this logical? Is it common sense? So the first thing is we look at it and we say, look, is our client making more money this year more money now than they were this time last year?
Sure.
Because as a general rule, if your client's making more money than they were this time last year, that's a good thing. You're going in the right direction. And that's not always the case. But if it's not, well, what and why and what's changed?
Yes.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And again, a big dollop of common sense would dictate that businesses want to grow. They partner with an agency. They want to kick on. So if they are growing, great. But what does that look like? And if they're not growing, then okay, why? What's gone on there?
Yeah.
And you can figure that stuff out from a business perspective before you need to go into. You don't need to go and look at all the metrics and the data to just kind of understand that and go, well, is the business growing? And why we look at year over year. For obvious reasons, takes out seasonality. You can sort of look at it. I mean, that said, we've got lots of home garden clients. So when the sun shines, if the sun shines earlier or later in the year,
we cannot predict the British weather.
We are having, like this year, we've had certain clients, at the time of recording this is June. So May was really nice weather. So for some of our clients, that was amazing. Yeah. For other clients, that was really difficult.
Yeah.
So we've had some clients that have had a really tough May, but then others have had an absolute snorter of a May. Really, really good. So, and that, if you compare year on year, it's a bit different. But by zooming out and looking at the big picture and going, well, actually, overall, look at the last month, the last quarter, year on year, year to date, are they making more money than they were this time last year, last couple of years? Yeah, the trend is lovely and going up. Okay, that is all good. That's moving in the right direction. We also ask ourselves, as a business, has their reliance changed? So we look at it and we say, as a business, are they doing more B2B stuff? Are they doing more wholesale stuff? Are they doing more to end consumers? Have they fundamentally changed? Like, are they doing more, have they got more irons in the fire than they had this time last year? So the reliance, because we're obviously doing the ad side, but what else are you doing?
Yes, because it's not just on the ads.
No, we look at, we stick in our lane, but we're mindful of the bigger picture. Yeah. So we'll ask the question and say, so as a business, what were you doing last year? What were you doing the last couple of years? And versus, how does that change? They go, no, we're doing the same stuff. Great. Or, oh no, we've changed. We're doing more of this, less of this. Okay, well, what impact is that having on the wider going on?
Before we go any further, if you're enjoying today's Tea Talk, you'll love our Grow with Evergreen podcast. Specifically created for home, garden, and lifestyle brands, it's a podcast dedicated to discussing paid media and marketing. Every episode, we're joined by a brand that wants to grow online. We delve into their business, dissect what they're doing, and define a digital growth strategy they can take and deploy into their business. And best of all, you get to listen or watch along, then take those learnings things into your own business. Make sure you check it out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But for now, let's get back to today's Tea Talk.
So for the people watching and who aren't quite sure what they might be reliant on, give us a couple of examples of different sort of segments that we could.
Most of our clients, they have a certain reliance on their brand. So your brand is going to play a role. So how prominent your brand is, people know you, and that's, if people buy your product repeat buy your product, if people are searching for you online. So the brand will play a certain role. Ads will play a fairly prominent role, a good third. Some of our clients 20-30%, others are up to 50-60% of their revenue can be correlated back to ads. So ads plays a prominent part. I would say as an average across our entire portfolio, I would say ads probably plays the role of at least a third of all of our clients' total revenue. So it's a very important chunk. And for those clients where it gets more than a third, so up to 40% plus, we'll be looking at going, how do we dilute that down? Particularly if they're wanting to grow. So if they say we're a 2 million turnover business now and we want to go to 3 million, but we've got a 40% reliance on ads, we'll look at that and we'll go, okay, fine. But what are we going to do? Because what we don't want to do is go from 2 million to 3 million turnover, but that reliance on paid just suddenly goes up significantly. And suddenly we're a 40% reliant business on ads, but now we've gone to a 65-70%. That's not a good thing. In the short term, it may be required to get you there, but then alongside doing the ads and scaling the ads, which is obviously what we do, we're also telling the client, what are you doing to dilute down your reliance on ads? And that would be email, which again, sort of headline for everyone watching, we are bringing email in. That will be coming into us. And that's being born off the fact of for years now, I've been saying to our clients, you need to do email. We're helping with brand. We're doing all of the ads, your organic stuff. We provide SEO strategy. We don't do the SEO doing, but I can do it. We advise on it.
And also one thing that a lot of people might not know if they're not working with us is that we do provide a lot of content from when we do ad filming.
Yes.
That they can use.
That they use in their organic socials.
We don't necessarily edit all of the organic stuff, but we give them a plethora of assets to use.
Yeah. So we're trying to help. We're from a here's all of these lovely assets that you can put on your own organic socials to help you grow. Then yes, we'll take care of the ads. Off the back of the ads and increasing brand awareness, you're increasing your brand. We're then saying to them, you should be doing email. And then obviously we're looking at saying, well, from a referral recommendation, it's the better thing. Again, it's brand, email, ads, referral recommendation.
Perfect.
So it's all of those things. So we'll look at that. And we'll just make sure that as a brand, they're not becoming overly reliant on any one channel, and we're looking at diluting down the reliance. What else we're saying to them? We also, really simple again, we look at what are you spending this year? So this is another thing, when it comes back to the common sense commercials, we always look at their spend, because often businesses are wanting to cut. And this is probably the simplest of them all, right? And we've had this a few times, is a business will look at, there's one particular client, I'm not going to name who they are, there's one particular client who comes to mind, and their revenue was slightly under where they wanted it to be. And we use common sense commercials. We literally pulled out and went, right, let's use some common sense commercials. Let's look at their data. And their reduction in revenue versus on where they wanted to be was exactly in line with their decreasing spend year on year, because they'd reined in their budget, because they'd said, we need to actually do a bit of cost saving, as a lot of businesses are doing right now. And we were fine, and we were getting the ads to be more efficient, but they reined in the spend. And in reining in the spend, that had, funnily enough, a direct correlation to revenue. So one of the things we always look at and go, why are you spending the same as what you did last year or what you did a couple of years ago? And then often the answer is, particularly when I'm talking to prospects, it's, well, no, we've had to rein it in. If we can get the return back to where it wants to be, then we'll spend more. And it's a little bit like,
how it works.
It's not really how it works. You've got to speculate to accumulate. And if you were spending this, and we've seen that. So again, we use common sense. So we go, well, if you're spending 50 grand less this year than you spent last year, common sense dictates that's going to have an impact. So again, it's that. And I think what I love about common sense commercials is it's not overly you're not trying to overcomplicate things and go too in the weeds, where the tendency can be to go in and you're sort of looking for all that. You're looking for the answer that's going to, and it's staring you in the face. It's just like, you're not spending enough. Or your reliance has fundamentally changed, or a part of your business offering you're no longer doing that you were doing last year.
You can't see the answer right in front of you.
Often it is the wood for the trees. It is so, and that's the thing. Common sense commercials, a lot of the time the answer is staring you in the face, but you just, you can't see it.
Looking right past it.
Literally. So then we look at, like the ROAS, we've got clients right now, and I know because we had a meeting, today's Tuesday, we have our Monday morning meeting where we go through all the clients. And we've got clients right now that ROAS, they're getting we've got clients that are getting 10s and 12s ROAS. Mm-hmm. We've got clients that are getting 3s and 4 ROAS. We've got clients that are getting 5s, 6s and 7s. So everything, right? Yeah. Real mix. It doesn't matter whether you're a business, you go, well, a 3 works for my business, or we're in it's a nightmare unless we can get a 10. We've got both of those scenarios. But what matters is what matters for you and your business. So we'll look at the ROAS and we'll track the ROAS, but year over year, we'll kind of look at it again. Does it make sense what we're getting in terms of can we correlate for you put £1 in, you get X back? Does that make sense when we factor in your margins, your GPs, all of that stuff? So we'll look at all of that. And then,
so how does one decide what the right ROAS is?
That's about understanding the number for that business. So this is again, we always say it's business before marketing. So we'll always go, what's your product? What are your margins? What's your profitability? What does your business look like? And what are all the numbers? We'll want to understand their business and their overhead and all of that good stuff to work out. Okay, and I'll often say to businesses, this is what I spend my time doing, is I'll work it out and I go, you can't afford. So there's a new client we started working with recently, and they were getting about a 3 ROAS, right, for the last couple of years. Their business has been plateauing, pretty much stable for the last 2 years. They're not growing, but they're not really shrinking. And we looked at their numbers, and we were like, fundamentally, your ROAS. I looked at their data, was like, you're not making any money at 3. You're just turning money. I was like, your business cannot afford to hit 3 ROAS. I was like, until you get to a 4, you're not making any money. Like, you are just purely turning pounds. And she sort of knew that and was like, yeah, no, I know that, but I've never really been able to specifically. Yeah. So I was like, right, what we're going to do about it, and so on and so forth. But so it's going to be different for every business is different. We've got wildly varying. Some clients, as I say, they go, unless they get above an 8, it doesn't work for our business. Right. Others, we've got some clients, they say, as long as you can get a 2, tractors above a 2 ROAS, we're in good shape. Scale it. So it's everything in between.
We can do that.
We're doing all of it. So and then the correlation. So another common sense one. The correlation between clicks and conversions. So.
Doesn't a click mean a conversion?
No, funnily enough. And again, depending on the product you're selling and the lifetime value and the average customer value, the correlation, there's a lot of C's there, the correlation between clicks and conversions, does it make sense? So there's an account we looked at very recently for a prospect, and we were getting, there were different campaigns within this account. And we had some campaigns where hypothetically, you'd get a conversion for every, I can't remember, 200 or 300 clicks. So you get 200 or 300 clicks, roughly 1 conversion. But then there'd be another campaign, right, that you would get 2,000 or 3,000 clicks to a conversion.
Wow.
And so we looked at that, and the CPCs, the cost per clicks, were the same across these 2 campaigns. And so again, using common sense commercials, we looked at that, and we started to number crunch the data, and it very quickly became apparent that actually, again, logic dictates that the campaigns that got 100 or 200 clicks would just do more of that. Because the ones we were having, and what we then recommended they did is we said, the ones where it's taking 2,000 or 3,000 clicks, we still want those sales, but it takes so many more clicks to get that sale. We need to rein in. We can't afford to spend as much per click to get that conversion, because it's going to take so many more clicks. So you bring down the CPCs, the cost per clicks, and then at the same time you tighten the audience and you try and focus. So it gets technical, right, when you get into the weeds, but you can start by just going, well, what's common sense dictate? So that's that.
Now, I do think I'm actually going to have to stop you there because, funnily enough, you're talking about email marketing. You've got an interview for someone.
Literally.
So you got to go and
2
do
minutes.
that.
I have. Yeah, we're going to throw this there. But it's common sense. I think my big takeaway for, those are just some specific examples of things we're doing, conversations we're having right now with clients, with prospects. But I just would urge anyone watching this is, when you're in your data, whether you've got an agency doing it, whatever, if you are running ads and you're getting you can't see the wood for the trees, the best advice I could give is just take a minute and just step away and actually just go, does this make sense? Is it common? Because as we know in marketing, people love to overcomplicate stuff, and common sense isn't all that common. And I think when you take a common sense approach to all of this number crunching, things just get a lot simpler and it becomes a lot easier. I was talking to a prospect yesterday. I never got to go, but I was talking to a prospect. Was it yesterday? No, it was back in the last week. And they're really lovely, and they came on. But and we were talking, and they were massively overcomplicating what they needed.
Really?
Yeah, they just came on, and they would sort of go, "With this is da 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 da," and they were talking about this, and I was like, ultimately, I sort of listened, and I was like, okay, and I said, we just need, and it was like, so we just need this, and I just summarised like 40 minutes of conversation in like one sentence. I was like, so if we could go from this to this, and they were like, yeah, that'd be amazing. Great. Okay, let's just keep it really simple. Anyway, there you go. But hope you enjoyed this one. If you haven't already, do subscribe. You'll find Tea Talks on all of the YouTube and Spotify and everywhere.
Yeah.
Make sure you leave us a comment if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on all the socials. We'll see you on the next one. All the best. Take care.
Bye.